And the music stops, so we're still just awkwardly dancing in our chairs. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Virtual NightLife Volume 3.
Woo.
I am happy to introduce my co-host tonight. This is Mary Holt from the Morrison Planetarium at California Academy of Sciences. Hi, Mary.
Yeah. Hello, Josh. And this is Josh Roberts, also from the California Academy of Sciences Morrison Planetarium.
We are thrilled to be here again with you this evening for another one of our virtual nightlifes. We would love to see you all in the building, but since that's still somewhat frowned upon, we are delighted to get a chance to meet you in your home for a nightlife experience.
Absolutely. And I'm super excited for our lineup tonight. We're having We're going to learn how to grow our own gardens. We're going to learn claymation. We're going to see some animals and music and all sorts of great stuff. So
some web active animals. I personally am really looking forward to these nights. We're doing it once every other week now on our Thursday evenings, not just as a chance to learn some really cool stuff, but an excuse to remember how to put on real pants. So we are starting our evening with someone who may be familiar to some of you who have tuned into our Nightlives in the past. And that is our Vicky Vásquez, shark studier extraordinaire. Now, we tried to speak to her before, and we had some technical issues. You were treated to a brief experience of what we in the business like to call shark charades. But I think we are going to head over to her now, hopefully for sound this time.
And I'm going to sign out for just a bit.
We'll see you in a minute, Mary. Okay, so heading over to Vicky Vásquez. Vicky works at the Pacific Shark Research Center. And Vicky, can we hear you? Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Okay, folks, I'm trying this again. I heard a glass clink. She's messing with me.
Hi, it works.
Not funny.
Just
Vicky, it is
kidding.
great to see you and hear you this time. What have you got in store for us?
Well, I thought it would be really cool to just show you guys about 10 minutes of cool shark stuff. So I thought I would start with my connection to the calacademy. So a couple of years ago, my professor helped discover a new species of shark. Well, let me say this. He discovers new species every year. He is a research associate at the calacademy, Dr. David Ebert, and you can also see him doing talks at the Academy of Sciences. Now, the thing that I did was I discovered this new species of shark, and it looks super, super weird. Can we get a picture of that? It's thinking. Yes. Okay. So this is the shark that I got to discover. It was pretty cool. And it has a lot of really awesome features that people don't completely realize. And the reason this is really interesting is because people have these ideas of sharks and it's always the same kind of shark. I mean, if you buy a shark toy, it's definitely not going to look like a Ninja Lantern shark, but it should. Now, Ninja Lantern sharks are part of a group called lantern sharks. So that means there's more than one of these glowing sharks in the world. Very cool. And then my little cousins helped name this guy. So that's how that happened. Can we go to the next slide? There we go. Okay. So this Ninja Lantern shark thing went huge. So what I have here is the one little example of the comic series from Jim Toomey. He does Sherman's Lagoon. If you look on your Sunday cartoons, you'll probably see it there. Now, this is an old one, but just side note, he always does really cool like conservation themed stories. And so you can see in this one, his Sherman Lagoon buddies meet Arturo. Arturo is from Central America because that's where we found the lantern shark. The other thing you see is me with a beer, very, very happy. Today I am doing the nightlife part with wine, yay! But what you're seeing there is actually a beer. So for our Sharktoberfest, well, I should say the Calcademies, they do a really cool thing where they have a lot of different types of beer and then shark nerds. And one of the years I was able to get Ballast Point Breweries from San Diego to make a Ninja Lantern beer. They're from San Diego. I'm originally from San Diego, so it was just a really neat experience. Now, that sort of attention was really helpful for me, and that gave me a chance to go to Japan. So that is the next little story that people might be familiar with. So let's go to the next one. Next, there we go. Okay, so this is going to be a clip. I don't know if it's going to work, but the way I talk in this is great too. I don't think you're going to hear it because I told them not to use that. Okay, so what you're watching in this little video is us in Japan. I'm there with, again, my professor. He's the one, the American guy. And then we're with Dr. Nakaya. Dr. Nakaya is the world-renowned expert, not just on goblin sharks, but the video that you're seeing here. Goblin sharks are one of the sharks that can jut their jaws out of their face the fastest. And I might even take it a step further and say like the whole animal kingdom. So what I mean by that is, you know, think of when you've seen Aliens or literally this goblin shark, other scary movies, there's like a jaw that comes out. So what I'm saying is that this goblin shark does this faster than any other animal in the world. Pretty cool. Now, the next clip, I believe, is also related to this. Yes. Okay. So as we were out there in the boat, every single animal I saw, to me, was incredible. And these are a couple of examples. So this here is a bird beak dogfish. It's a pup. You can tell that it's a deep sea shark because it's got that bright green iridescent eye. It was really amazing to see these animals that, I mean, there's no way you could get to them unless you had a submarine. Similarly, we also saw a kite fin pup, so you can switch to the next one. Now, kite fins are part of the only other group in addition to lantern sharks that can glow. So it was really cool being able to find one of these, and also really bright green eye. The other thing that you might be able to tell from this photo is the texture. So if you look really close, it might seem a little bit bumpy, and those are the dermal denticles. So it's really amazing to touch shark skin when you're there in person and it's live. But if you want to get your best next close thing, it's like sandpaper. So dry, very rough. This really helps them out in nature. Let's go to the next one. Okay, this one I really like because when people are obsessed with sharks, they forget that this thing exists. Sharks are cool and all, but sharks also have these relatives. They're called rays and skates, like this guy right here. He's part of a group called the wedgefish. Now, no, sorry. So this saw shark is, sorry, wrong one. But what I want you to notice is how he uses his rostrum. So that's that long thing, basically the chainsaw. And as you're seeing, this footage was filmed by a colleague of mine, Dr. Barbara Weringer, and she is the expert on these guys. And so she's looking to see how they are feeding. These are critically endangered species. So if you are a shark nut, if you want to be a shark expert, you really want to know about these. Now, the other reason why I mentioned wedgefish is because they're just in my head. Wedgefish and guitarfish are some of the sharks that are in most peril. And you look at them and you're like, that's not really a shark. Well, we also call them flat sharks. So maybe that'll help. Flat shark, not so bad. All right, so the next one, this is really cool. This is something in our very own backyard. This is a Pacific electric ray, also called a torpedo ray. You can see that it's called torpedo ray because of like the long saucer body. But then the electric part, you don't figure out unless you're getting nosy. So it's used as a defense, but as you can see, these are very slow moving animals. You can get really close. There's a lot of great videos on these that you can Google. Unfortunately, a lot of them say like dangerous electric shark ray thing, and they're not dangerous. The videos are all like this, but there is a little bit of this thrill wondering how powerful this animal really is that's completely calm next to you. I don't know how true it is, but I've definitely heard rumors that scuba divers who just been found at the bottom can't figure out what happened wrong. They suggest that maybe they got electrocuted in a heart attack. So that's one rumor I heard. No clue. Okay, so I want to show you, before we go to the next video, because we're talking about flat sharks, this is something I brought. I showed this last time as well, when I had no sound, and it's called a thornback ray. because of these thorns that you're seeing right here. And unlike a stingray that has a long barb, as you can see, this guy has many little rows of spines to defend itself. The reason I'm showing you a thornback ray is because we have these in the San Francisco Bay, and this is not an adult. When these things are full grown, they're going to be getting like, 3 feet long or so. So very interesting creature, but just very poorly understood. Now, next video. Next shark video. Okay, this is one of my favorites because I'm biased. This is a ghost shark. Okay, ghost sharks are awesome. They're in a lot of different subgroups, and one of them is hydrolagus. So that is what you're looking at right here. Now, this was a huge deal, and it was actually one of my lab mates. Her name is Amber. I would try to say her last name, but she's German. I know I'm going to mess it up. Reichard? Amber Reichard? I hope I said that right. Okay, so she is a scientist who found that this shark, named after the artist Ray Troll, so those are some of the images that you're seeing here, was originally found in Australia. But they found footage of that guy off the Pacific coast, which is what you were seeing there. My lab mate was able to look at it and say, you know what? We're pretty sure this is the same shark, and it is going across the ocean. So that information is very, very, very interesting and a great example of why it's important to study the deep sea more. Now, that was my last video. You can see that this video specifically is very educational, so I highly recommend going back to MBARI. That's Monterey Bay Area Research Institute. It's actually neighbors to where I go to school, Moss Landing Marine Labs. And they use a lot of technology to get down to that deep sea where my lab loves to be because we study these deep sea sharks. Now, you guys are probably used to something more like this. This is a mako shark, and they are one of the fastest moving sharks in the world. And this is kind of more your typical shark that you might be used to. So those are all my random shark facts for now. I believe that is my time. So thanks for listening. If you have more shark facts that you need to know, you can find me at Vicky Shark and just ask. Okay, bye-bye.
All right. Thank you so much, Vicky. That was super interesting. So you may notice we're doing something a little bit different this week. Instead of Josh and I talking at the same time, we're going to swap back and forth for these little interludes. But if anybody has any space-related questions, Josh and I are both here as part of the planetarium, and we love space. So if you have any space questions, feel free to put them in the chat box while we're talking to you in between acts here. And in the meantime, until we get some space questions, I did want to let you know about a cool space news item that I just learned about today, that there was a paper released about a supernova that releases 10 times more energy, or it's 10 times more powerful than a normal supernova. Now, what do you call this, you may ask? A supernova or a monster nova. These are words they actually used in the articles about it, which I find fantastic. Astronomy and their naming conventions are so great. And Vicky can take any shark questions, she said, too, in the comments as well. Let's see, I'm going to look through our comments real quick, see if there's any space stuff. Nope. All right, I see a hi from Cheryl. Hi, Cheryl. Yeah, but up next, in just a minute, we're going to be passing it over to Lauren Esposito, which is another one of our own from the California Academy of Sciences. And what I was told she's going to be talking about with us tonight is the bizarre arachnid sex and mating rituals. So pretty excited to hear about that. I don't really know what to expect, but we will find out.
Hello, everyone. I am Dr. Lauren Esposito, and I'm the Curator of Arachnology here at the California Academy of Sciences. Well, actually here in my apartment in San Francisco at the moment. And today I wanted to talk to you about my favorite topic, which is arachnids, oddly. As the Curator of Arachnids, I talk about arachnids. But I thought like what was particularly apropos for all of us being stuck in our apartments, confined and sheltering in place was some really bizarre arachnid sex. Arachnids have really bizarre mating rituals, and those mating rituals are so abundant that I can't even touch on all of them. But what I did want to mention were two of my favorite stories. And the first one, well, first of all, here's what I'm going to say about arachnids. For all of you that are sitting at home saying, oh, I hate spiders. Spiders are awful. They're certainly out to get me. They crawl in your mouth when you sleep. There's brown recluses in my basement. If you're here in California, at least, there's no brown recluses in your basement. And they're definitely not out to get you. They don't crawl in your mouth when you sleep. And when I think about arachnids, I think about things like this giant tarantula. That's really kind of more of a puppy. Like this guy's probably 12 years old and has an extraordinarily low metabolism and is just out looking for love. So I think, maybe I'm hoping to implore you to think a little bit differently about arachnids in the next 10 minutes or so. So usually my job is not done here in my apartment. Obviously, it's going around the world, exploring and documenting the things that we share this planet with. My favorite arachnid group is scorpions. That's really what I'm a specialist in, is scorpions. Although I study a wide variety of arachnids, including other things that you might know are arachnids, if you've ever heard the word, like spiders, ticks, and mites are also arachnids. And then there's a whole bunch of weird things that you've probably never heard of, like tailless whip scorpions, vinegaroons, book scorpions or pseudoscorpions, sun spiders. There's a whole bunch of different things, and all of them do all kinds of crazy stuff. But for me, the most exciting thing about arachnids is we're like in the midst of a renaissance, so to speak. We discover hundreds of new species of arachnids every single year. And a lot of us have tried to estimate what percentage we've already been able to document scientifically. And somewhere in the range of 30 to 50% of arachnids that we share this tiny little spinning planet with have been documented formally by scientists. That's not to say that the other 50% are unknown. Certainly people that live around them have seen them before, but they've never gone through the formal process of being scientifically documented and described, which is how we discover new species. So oftentimes I think when people think about scorpions or maybe like the worst kind of everything that could sting or bite you, people think about places like this, the desert. But really, arachnids are super diverse all over the world. And so I go all over to places like this. So this is a tiny island off the coast of Central Africa called Sao Tome and Principe. Or places like this. This is me crawling out from under a boulder-ridden stream on Penang Island in Malaysia. Or this is me in a tiny mud cave where I was told there was a scorpion. And indeed there was in the Choco forest in Colombia. But I think the thing that most fascinates me about arachnids is their behaviors. And when it comes to arachnid reproduction, there's nothing more bizarre. I put together this little word explosion diagram for you of some of the, I think, my favorite phrases about arachnid reproduction, arachnid courtship. So the first thing you should know is that virtually all species of arachnids engage in some kind of courtship. Oftentimes that's playing music. So for example, spiders that live in webs, the male spider will approach the female spider web and he'll begin to stroke the threads of the web like playing a harp. But things get pretty weird pretty fast when you start talking about arachnid sex. And there's all sorts of weird things like spontaneous suicide, traumatic insemination, male cannibalism, female gigantism, nuptial gifts. Then it gets pretty sweet, like a pas de deux, or what you might think is sweet, like a bridal veil, which is really just cocooning your mate in silk. And then back to really weird, like auto-castration. But what I wanted to tell you today about was my two greatest stories. The first one is about this really beautiful spider, which is a kind of jumping spider. Not all spiders build webs that they live in. And jumping spiders are some of the spiders that are active during the day. They have really, really good vision. And you can see they have these huge eyes right up in front of their head. And because they're active during the day, this one group of jumping spiders, actually many kinds of jumping spiders, have developed bright, bright colors, particularly in the males, that they use to aid in their courtship ritual. And none are more spectacular than these. These are the peacock spiders. They're found on the eastern coast of Australia, and they're really tiny little spiders. They're like probably about the width of your pinky nail, so inordinately small. And they spend their days jumping around, and the adult males spend most of their days trying to get the attention of the females. And they do this by first kind of waving their arms around. You can see this one has his third pair of legs sticking straight out, and they're banded black and white to really draw the eye in. And then they pop open this tail that they have. And this is really where they get their name from, peacock spiders, because they've got this big, beautiful, bold and brightly colored peacock tail. And they then proceed to do a dance. And the dance is absolutely adorable. I just want to show you first a close-up of the tails of these spiders. So you can see they have these flaps, and the flaps really kind of wrap around the body where they keep it nice and tucked in and stored tightly when they're not using it. And then when the male approaches a female and is ready to start courting, he flips that tail open and really spreads out his tail feathers, so to speak. What's really interesting for most spiders is that the females are almost always much larger than the males. So when males court female spiders, it's really a dangerous mission that they're embarking upon. They're embarking upon this mission where they might end up getting eaten. Jumping spiders can jump multiple lengths of their body in one go. They're really incredible athletes. And so the males get close enough to begin their courtship that the female can see them. They get her attention by lifting these legs up and waving them around and then opening up their tail. And they'll slowly start to progress closer and closer to the female as she maintains her attention with the male. Until they finally get to the point that they're able to approach fully and mate with her. And you can see in the bottom left-hand corner is a male mating with a female spider. And again, notice the size difference. And a lot of these really wonderful photos are shot by a guy named Jürgen Otto. And he's also shot this video that I'm going to show you. And you can actually look him up on YouTube. He has an awesome YouTube channel where he's gone out and somehow, I can't even fathom how he does this, has managed to capture incredible video of these teeny, teeny, tiny spiders doing their courtship displays. So let's go ahead and get this video started. So here's how it starts. The male looks at the female and he tries to make sure that he has eye contact. Again, they have incredible vision. So what he's looking for is a female jumping spider that's making direct eye contact with him. And if she continues that direct eye contact, he'll begin his courtship ritual. And again, it starts with these kind of legs waving in the air, sort of like air traffic controllers. And if she continues to watch him, then he'll move on to sort of the next set of steps, which involve him shaking his tail, popping it up, and dancing back and forth for the female. And again, anytime that she looks away, he moves back to the beginning and starts all over again. So each of these species of jumping spider has a series of steps that make up the dance that they do for the female. And they have to complete all of these steps just right for the female to allow him to safely approach her. So every time she looks away, he reorients his body so that he can get that eye contact again and tries again. And he'll do this over and over and over again for hours, just trying to get her to continue looking at him so that he knows it's safe to approach. One of the things that we can't see, or rather hear in this video, is that almost all arachnids play some sort of song as they're courting the females. So in the case of jumping spiders, they're doing this really incredible dance, but they're also playing a song simultaneously. And so we can't hear it because they transmit the acoustic signal or the noises through the ground, through the substrate that they're standing on. So we're unable to hear these sounds. They're not airborne like with the way we perceive acoustic signals. So we'd have to become a spider in order to be able to hear them. But spiders have basically ears in their feet. They have these slit sensilla in each of their feet, which is essentially a hearing organ that allows them to pick up vibratory signals that are communicated through the ground. And they use these slit sensilla both for hunting, to perceive the walking of prey, but also to hear the sounds that are being played by a potential courting mate, and assess the quality of the sound, and as well as determine whether or not they're the same species, because each species plays a completely different song. Okay, peacock spiders, the most beautiful little spiders that exist out there, arguably. I mean, other arachnologists might disagree with me, but that's my hypothesis, and I'm sticking with it. But what we couldn't hear in that, right, was the sound. We couldn't hear the sound of the courtship. And so I have this other video. This is a video made by Dr. Damien Elias at UC Berkeley. And he has a lab that records the vibratory signals that are being sent by these spiders. And he's created this amazing thing. He has basically like a sound stage for jumping spiders that's kind of like a drum head. It's like a really tightly stretched fabric material. And on that drum head are these tiny little metal dots. I'm sort of waving my cursor over them right now, if you can see on the screen. And these tiny little metal dots are used to bounce a laser off of. And this is a really special piece of equipment. It's called a laser vibrometer. And usually it's only used in like aeronautics industries to sense micro vibrations in like airplane engine parts, to make sure that airplane engines are like completely perfectly aligned and not subject to wear and tear or like braking while you're in mid-flight. But he uses these laser vibrometers to pick up the tiny acoustic signals that are being sent through the substrate from the male to the female. And so what we're looking at in this video is a male. The male's in the background, and a female. The female's in the foreground. The one thing that I should probably mention about jumping spiders is that the males will basically court with anything. So in fact, this female jumping spider is dead. She's dead. She's mounted to the head of a pin, which allows Damien and his lab to manipulate the position of her so that she looks away from him and back towards him, and to simulate a courtship ritual. So I'm going to play this. I hope, I really hope that you can hear the sound that's coming out of this video. So let's see. Okay, so what's happening is that this male spider is playing a song, and he's moving his legs to coordinate with the song that he's playing. So every time you see a movement in the legs, that movement has nothing to do with the production of the sound. It has to do with a coordinated song and dance. And the term for this is multimodal communication. It's communicating along both visual signals as well as acoustic signals. And while this spider certainly isn't colored as fantastically as the peacock spider, this is a spider locally that we have here in California that Dr. Elias and his lab were able to collect and test in the lab. And I think what I love about this is this ritual can take like a long time, like hours, for the male to successfully complete. But what you'll kind of notice is in this series of videos that have been patched together, what I find is that it kind of increases in intensity as it goes along. So as the male spider gets closer and closer to finishing his courtship ritual, the intensity of the music kind of draws to a crescendo. And I'm just going to let you guys listen to it for a second. Okay, that's really it. And so that was that final little segment, that pre-mounting motif, is when he's finally finished his whole courtship ritual. He's done all the steps just right. She's been paying attention the whole time. I mean, in this case, she's dead, so it doesn't really matter. But he's really excited that he got that continued eye contact, and he goes ahead and finishes the courtship ritual and begins the process of actually mating with her. Okay, so I would say that these jumping spiders are probably the most spectacular of spider reproduction. Certainly not the most macabre or the most creepy, but the most spectacular. I want to move on to my favorite group of arachnids, which is not spiders, and show you a little clip of them in their reproduction, their sort of courtship ritual. And these guys, unlike spiders, are much more refined. They're like dignified. They don't hop around and wave their tails in the air. They conduct a really dignified courtship ritual. These are scorpions, and the reason that they're looking blue in this video is because this video is taken under ultraviolet light. All scorpions fluoresce under ultraviolet light, and they all look something between this kind of blue color to like a bright green toxic sludge. But the way that scorpions court, all scorpions, is that the male goes up to the female, faces her face to face. So right now their mouth parts are facing one another, and he grabs her hand and does kind of a ballroom dance, sort of like a back and forth across the ground. And then at some point in the courtship, if it seems like it's going well, he starts to do something called calyceral massage. And so you might have seen those little tiny jaws. They almost look like mini hands right on the front of his face. Reaching out and touching her jaws, and really it's kind of like kissing. He's massaging her mouth parts with his mouth parts, and they're interlocking lips, so to speak. And if he does all of these dance moves well, if he's a really good and dignified ballroom dancer, maybe a good kisser, occasionally they do something called a sexual sting, which we're not going to talk about because it's no big deal. She's completely unharmed. In the end, he'll deposit his sperm on a gelatinous stalk called a hemispermatophore, or a spermatophore rather. And at the very tip of that stalk will be a little packet of sperm, and he'll guide her towards the spermatophore and his sperm packet. And if she thinks that he did a good job, she'll pick up that sperm packet. And if she doesn't think he did a good job, then it can end with her eating his spermatophore, her eating him. Again, typically female scorpions are a bit larger, at least in overall body mass than the male. So certainly he's risking something by getting quite this close. And scorpions are indeed cannibalistic. But if all goes well and she does accept his sperm packet, she inseminates herself, and she can actually store that sperm for quite a while. She's able to put it into a special little chamber of her reproductive system, and she can decide when she's ready to inseminate herself and begin to grow her little tiny baby scorpionlings. Scorpions are the only arachnid that gives birth to live young. They actually have an ovuterine system that nourishes the babies directly, so they're not eggs inside of her body. She doesn't lay eggs. She has babies that are essentially kind of attached to a placenta that's providing them with nourishment. And as they hatch out, they're still sort of encased in this placental envelope, just kind of like a human baby or any other live-bearing, like a mammal baby. And so I'm going to show you a little clip of that because it's absolutely adorable. So we're looking straight up at the belly of a scorpion. Her genital opening is right in the middle of her body, just between those two things that look like tiny combs, which are sensory structures that allow scorpions to smell and feel. And you can see that there's little tiny black eyes through her translucent exoskeleton, and those are the babies waiting to come out of the birth canal. And here comes one tiny little adorable baby. Out it comes, and it's still sort of encased in this sac. And as the sac breaks, the baby climbs up onto the female's back, and she continues to take care of them. So if you thought that arachnids were like just creepy, heartless little monsters, in fact, almost all of them engage in some form of parental care. So last but least, I wanted to show you this picture of what they look like when they come out. There's nothing sweeter than that. That's a mother scorpion with a whole brood of babies on her back. And these babies will stay up there until like their first molt or so. which is when they completely shed their exoskeleton and regrow a new one, allowing them to get bigger and stronger and have a harder exoskeleton. So with that, I just want to say thank you so much for listening to me for a few minutes and hearing about creepy and hopefully really cool arachnid reproduction. If you want to find out more about what my lab is up to and the kinds of research that we're doing, which includes studying the fastest rotational movement of any living animal and scorpions on islands, you can follow us at Arachnology Nerd on Twitter or Cass Arachnerds on Instagram. Thank you so much. So long.
Lauren, that was absolutely amazing. Thank you so much. I can't tell if the quote of the day was spiders that have reproduction by attack helicopter sounds or the massaging mouth parts. But we are here to see some more, slightly more mammalian kind of animals with the folks at Sweet Farm. They're going to be showing us some of their animals and the goat to meeting program where you can actually put them on your Skype call. So let's head over right now.
Hey everyone, this is Nate over at Sweet Farm Foundation, and I'm going to turn the camera around here just so we can say hi, and you'll have a face to the voice behind the camera. So my name's Nate Salpeter. I'm one of the founders out here at Sweet Farm Foundation, and we are a nonprofit organization located about 45 minutes south of San Francisco, right along the Pacific Coastal Highway, and we are dedicated to creating a compassionate and sustainable world. So we're doing that through a combination of farm animal rescue, rehabilitation, as well as education programs around the predominantly negative impacts of industrialized farming across the food system. So not just with the animals, but with also the fruits and vegetables that we're eating, the way that they're being produced. We also have plant-based agriculture programs and technology initiatives to really focus on helping entrepreneurs get their companies and technologies off the ground, getting the funding they need, but also scaling them globally. So we're doing a lot of really cool stuff out here. I'm going to turn the camera around one more time here. And we'll talk a little bit about some of the animals that we're working with. All of these animals are rescues. They've all come out of a variety of situations. So everything from abandonment, abuse, factory farms, live markets, testing situations, all the way out to illegal rooster fighting operations. So they all come in with their own individual needs. So they all get, individualized care when it comes to medical needs. So 2 days ago, for instance, we took a turkey up to the University of California at Davis to have a CT scan because there was some concern about a possible brain parasite. All of these animals are treated as if they're family members and they receive the same level of care. But with our Goat to Meeting program, what we're doing is actually not just bringing these animals into people's GoToMeeting or Zoom calls. We're also offering the same virtual field trips to public educators around the world for free. So already we have over 30 different sanctuaries that we're working with. And those sanctuaries and us, we are actually handling over 3,000 calls and hundreds of schools already. So one of the things that we really like about this program is it's a very respectful way to engage with these animals up close with while they are still extremely comfortable. So for instance, right now I'm next to Argyle. He was rescued out of a dairy operation and helps people understand just how sweet cows are and why they deserve way more respect than they actually receive. So a lot of people don't realize that cows, they form extremely complex social bonds with one another. They actually will mourn the loss of family members within their herd. We're able to actually get up and close with the animals and open people's eyes to the reality is that pigs, for instance, have the intelligence level of a 3 to 4 year old human. So that's just one aspect of what we do out here at Sweet Farm. One of the other things that we do with our technology initiatives is we're working with companies that are doing things such as cell-based meats, so cellular agriculture, or other people refer to as lab-grown meat. So we're working with companies all over the world, bringing really interesting technologies to the forefront of the way the world feeds itself. So, so one of the companies is called Shiok Meats. We actually helped get that company off the ground, and they are based in Singapore and are growing shrimp and crustaceans from cells without a single animal. Another company we work with is actually called Turtle Tree Labs, and they are producing dairy, bioidentical dairy, without a single animal. So they are currently working with the Smithsonian to produce snow leopard milk for recovering snow leopard cubs, but they're also addressing the baby formula market, a $60 billion market, with human breast milk without a single person. So what's incredible about this is there's a lot of health benefits and ecological benefits to these new technologies that Sweet Farm is helping actively get access to that funding and even do some of their science. So we're doing field trials for some of the really forward-looking agriculture technologies with plants as biosensors. Really, really fun stuff that is pushing the envelope of what we can actually do and expect, in the future in terms of producing food for the world at scale in a much more efficient way, and with a lot of different ethical advantages by removing animals from that process, while still achieving some of the diet needs or things that people still want to maintain their diet. There's many different ways we can do that, looking forward into the future. And Argyle is super excited that we're working on these things out here at Sweet Farm. And also through our Goat to Meeting program, we're helping open people's eyes to why these issues are important, but also putting smiles on people's faces during a very stressful time. So Argyle and everyone else at Sweet Farm, with our Goat to Meeting program, super excited. We love what everyone at Calacademy is doing, and we're super thankful to be joining you this evening. We hope everyone's staying safe out there. So thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Sweet Farm folks. That was absolutely amazing. So we had a couple questions pop up in the chat. Somebody asked, how long does it take light to get from one side of the galaxy to the other? For our Milky Way galaxy, we say it's about 130,000 light years across from side to side. So 130,000 years is around the same amount of time as from now to when humans began one of their first migrations out of Africa a long time ago, 130,000 years ago. That's a huge distance in space and time. Now, we did have one quick thing I wanted to jump over to. We just passed a couple days ago a very special anniversary, the 30th anniversary of the Hubble Space Telescope's mission, its launch, and the incredible legacy of that mission ever since. So I believe we have a special photo queued up I would love to show you. This is something that we can show you right now, but it just won't do it justice. You need to go look up this photo for yourselves. It is called the Cosmic Reef. Now, this is a star-forming region in the direction of the Larger Magellanic Cloud. This is a beautiful photograph with incredible depth of color, composition. If this was just a nature photo, it would be something truly special. And the fact that this is a place where baby stars are forming in one of our nearby satellite galaxies just makes this all the more special and all the more surreal. So if you folks have a chance, make sure you check this out. If you want to find out more about it, the Academy is doing some general Q&A on our Morrison Planetarium Facebook page. Check it out and be asking any question you come up with. With that, I think we have a special mixed media animator to show us some stop motion claymation. That's Angie Amaro. Take it away.
Hi everyone, my name is Angie Amaro. I am a mixed media animator and GIPHY artist. I'm here today to show you a little bit of my process when I work with claymation. Claymation is a stop motion type of animation using clay, obviously. So today I'm going to show you really quick. I have the stickers of Claude I made for Calacademy a couple months ago. It's a really fun method of animation where you create the puppet out of clay and then you move it in increments and take a picture and so on. So here's Claude, and here it is. And so I don't have the whole body of Claude here, if you could tell, because the sticker was only cut to a little bit. And then I also have the sticker I made for Stanley. I did think it's Stanley, but maybe I hope he's proud of me. Anyway, so it gets a little dented. It's a very very slow and time consuming process when you are working with clay because it's so easy and so flexible that it dents. So today I'm going to show a little bit of the processing. I'm currently working on this puppet, and one of my favorite animals at Calacademy is the blue spotted ribbon tail, right? And it's one of my favorite animals because every time I go in, it's the first thing that you see and also the last thing that you see when you leave the aquarium or the reef. So here's a work in progress, I'll say. And I'm going to go a little bit over this whole thing. So I like to use a glove sometimes just because, again, the clay is so, you can mix it very easy. So you can get smudged, you can get dirty right away. So here's a little bit just to show you how this works. So I have I create an armature first. And usually I use aluminum wire because it's very flexible. And if you could tell, I twist it over just in case it breaks. Because of that, it's flexible, it could break. And then I go either with epoxy for the places where the joints are, or where it's going to be hard and it's going to attach another piece of wire. So in this case, the tail seemed to have, let me go on this side, the tail seemed to have a little bit of like, hey, I'm drawing blank, spike thing that it's very venomous apparently. So I cover this a little bit. Once I fix it kind of how I want it, so I go with the aluminum wire, and then I use this clay that is a sculpted clay, which is a clay that I used to bake. So it's kind of doing some sort of bone structure. Obviously, it's not anatomically correct, but it is for me in order to, because I need to know how it's going to move. So there's points in the armature that I don't need it to move. So I kind of wanted that shape to be retained so it doesn't dent in too much or sink into that. So I use this clay and I bake it, and this right here is aluminum, but it's a foil actually that you use for embossing. So anyone does like embossing, this is kind of, and this would allow me to move it and retain. When I do claymation, you have to move it one frame at a time. So you very carefully move it and then take a picture and move it again and take another picture, and this will create the effect that the puppet is moving. Think about like for claymations, you think about chicken run, that's all made out of clay. And so what I do is first I go and I look a lot at I research a lot the movement, I research a lot the way they look, the way they interact, and that way I can give a little bit of personality. So start with a basic clay like this color, and this will be my base, and also my filler. And then I mix that with a little bit of blue and create this one right here. Try to see, so it's a little bit of greenish. And the yellow will be for highlights, and this will be for the spots. So what I do is once I mix it, I run it. I have here a clay machine, and I pass the clay through it, and it will give me a flat surface like that. And then what I do, I'm going to move this out of the way. I have a lot of tools. These have silicone tip, and these are for painting and mixing paint, but I find them really useful. So I will take a little bit of blue, and I cut a little piece of that and I land it on it, and I go through that multiple times, just very gentle, and I pass it through the clay machine again. It's a very time-consuming process, so I'm trying to get as much as I can in this 10 minutes. So it goes through to the clay machine, and you end up with a texture that is like this. There you go. So this kind of has if you've been to calacademy, if you've seen the blue spotted ribbon-tailed ray, has this really nice texture, and so this will create the skin for it. And I go ahead and I cover that, and so once that's done, I go over. I'm gonna bring it here, and with this tool, it's kind of like has like a little ridges, and I go ahead and do it. Now the base of the color of this one, where it's putting the base on the ray, when we overlap the other one, I can smudge it like this. And what this is going to create, that little gradient that the ray has around the body. And there it is. It's going to give it that color. So then what I use for the eyes, I also make them out of clay, and I paint them, and I use them. So everything that I shoot, it goes frame by frame. This is not coming out. And it goes frame by frame. So every movement, if the eye, I'm going to pop the eye right here. Oh, hello. There it is. The minute you put the eyes on, it just comes to life. And now, for example, I would take a picture and then move it, take a picture and move it, and it would seem like its eye is moving around. So that's how the eyes go. So I make them out of clay. I use nail polish sometimes. For that, I know it particularly has a really yellow tint. And then I take it out. So I take it out, and then I place it onto a piece of clay using this tool that is kind of like a needle. And then with another tool, I go in, like, grab a little bit of that, and it was just really, I don't have black wood, but this green is pretty close to it. So the way I would do it is that I would, look at that, and very carefully just start placing it there. And I want to leave that hole there so I can come back and when I am animating this, I can move it around and the eyes can move. And so these are like a little bit of the touches, final touches. I mean, like I said, it's a work in progress. It takes a long time to just sculpt and everything. And then once it's sculpted, you shoot it. And because it's clay, you have to be very careful not to dent it. And sometimes I make a couple of them, like replacements, or I make some real skin so I could just swap them and move on and whatnot. So that's a little bit how it works. And I'm going to do on this side, and this is a silicone tip, which is great because nothing's going to get stuck to it. It's just going to go right through it, and I just very gently, I just go by around it, and that will give the texture that it has around its body. I can use this one too, but I find that this one, because it's plastic, it's not as great, but when you use silicone, it's a lot better. And yes, I use silicone a lot on the mat and on things like that. Well, wish I could tell you more about it, but if you want to check out my work, you can visit my website. It's angieamaro.com, or you can follow me on Instagram at sugartoast. Thank you so much for having a good night. Bye.
Awesome. Thank you, Angie. That was so interesting. Up next, we're going to be learning about some gardening. But before we do, a little bit more space for you. Now, someone earlier was asking what planets we can see in the sky right now. And the first one that I always noticed recently is Venus. Venus has been very bright, very easy to see early in the evening, right after the sun goes down. If you look over towards the setting sun in the west, you'll see Venus, no problem. It's very bright. But also, I realized this is a wonderful opportunity to plug our almanac, our 2020 almanac. If you look up California Academy of Sciences, actually, if you look up Morrison Planetarium 2020 almanac, you can download this at home, and it tells you all about what things are going on in the sky and what planets you can see, what meteor showers are happening throughout the year. So I highly recommend checking that out. But up next, we have Charlotte Jones, and she's going to be teaching us how to make some gardens while we're all stuck in quarantine.
Hey, everybody. My name is Sarah Charlotte Jones. I'm the Education Director at the Museum of Craft and Design. You've probably seen us a few times over at NightLife. We really love partnering with everybody over there and really look forward to getting back into the swing of things once we're all able to get out there and party again. Like you, we are all at home trying to figure out creative ways to stay creative, stay connecting with everyone. And one of the projects that I personally have been working on has been my quarantine garden. So we can't get to the grocery store all that often, and we're all kind of eating a lot of boxed goods and things that you find in your pantry. And this is sort of a fun way to introduce a little bit more produce into your life and also make your food go a little bit longer than usual. So I'm going to go through a number of different regrowable types of produce that are very easy to find, very easy to grow. Unfortunately, you don't have to furiously write down any notes or anything. If you go into the event notes here on YouTube or on Facebook, you will see we've got a little PDF that you can link to, which will have all of the notes available for you. It'll also take you back to our website, sfmcd.org, where you can learn more about our MCD at Home projects. We're doing bi-weekly hands-on projects that go out in both newsletter and web page form. So really great stuff. It's for all ages. And again, we can't wait to see you again once we're back in the museum. All right, so without further ado, some of the things that you're going to need if you want to start your own quarantine garden are really just various glass bowls and jars. Recycling stuff that you have at home is definitely going to work. You need your produce scraps, all sorts of goodies like this, and access to water, of course, and a knife. You might want to trim up some of your scraps before you start planting them. So we're going to start first off with one of the easiest and kind of most fun and really rewarding vegetables that you can start with. So this is just a romaine heart. This is your lettuce, romaine heart lettuce. It's a great lettuce to have anyway because it's very hardy, and it you can keep it for a long time and use it for a long time. And turns out you can use it even longer. So you just end up with the end of your stem or your core. You might even just trim it down a little bit so you've got just a couple inches there. You don't really need to do anything to the base. And then you'll put it into your jar here, and just a touch of water. You want to cover that stem a little bit, that base, and that's it. You're good to go. You are going to want to check your water, change it, and refill as needed because it is going to evaporate. Set it on a shelf or next to a window I'm also going to show you a little trick for being able to hang your jars in the window with this simple macrame, but we'll get to that a little bit later. So here you have your lettuce. You're going to let that grow, and after about 2 weeks, you're going to end up with this wonderful leafy new growth. So I've got 2 of them going right here. Like I said, this was about 2 weeks. I change the water every couple days, and you're not going to regrow an entire head of lettuce, but you are going to get another week or so worth of this lovely growth, and those are perfect little leaves to put on a sandwich or to supplement a larger salad. One of the great things too about romaine hearts is that they come in packs of 3 usually, so you could really kind of have 3 of these going at once, and I do suggest that. So next, very similar technique, we're going to work with lettuce. So you've already eaten all of the ants on a log that you can handle for quarantine, and you're left with this bitter kind of yucky end of the stalk. Same thing as what you did with your romaine heart. You're just going to find a nice little ramekin or bowl, a jar that'll fit it in there. If you need to trim off some of the kind of gnarly pieces that have started to go brown on the outside, feel free to do that. And then again, you're just doing the exact same thing. Fill up your water, keep an eye on it. You want to make sure that it doesn't evaporate below your stalk, but you also want to make sure that it's not getting cloudy or anything like that. So once you've got your lettuce or your celery, after about a week, you're going to start getting new stalks that are growing. So you can kind of see here. I'll take this guy out. Out of the top, we're getting all of this cool new growth. And those will continue growing. You can actually plant this in a little bit of soil, and you can plant this in a little bit of soil, and after about a month or so, you're going to start getting little miniature celery stalks, and you can start eating them after they get to be about, what does it say on my paper? It's like 5 inches long, I think, will be your stalks. So little miniature celery is also going to be great for giving you good nutrients during your quarantine. Next, we will do green onions. Green onions are probably one of the most rewarding of all of the vegetables that you can grow. You just start with the little ends after you've had your Taco Tuesday, had all of your delicious green onion sprinkles on top of your homemade street tacos. You want to actually get your stalks all the way down to the white part of the onion. So I'm just going to kind of cut those off to get them shorter. We'll compost those. And then, so you've got your little short little guys like that. And then we'll put them into this little recycled jar here. And this is a nice size jar too, because they can kind of stay up on their own. They're not falling over too much, because you don't want them to be fully submerged. You just want to get those little roots covered with your water. And then again, set it on your shelf in the sun and watch the magic happen, which will happen very quickly, actually. So you will see here, this is after just a week of growth. I mean, this guy's already fallen over. There's so much new growth happening on here. So, and that's just perfectly delicious, ready to eat green onion. So that one really regenerates quickly and often. You'll be in green onions for longer than you knew that you wanted. So, all right, next. All right, we've managed to do a bunch of veggies that did have a lot of payoff. Now we're gonna have one that is a little bit longer. You have to be a little bit patient, a little bit more patient with, but still really fun to watch. And that's your carrot tops. So you're not actually going to be regrowing an actual carrot root. You are going to be growing the edible leafy greens that come out of the top of the carrot. So I've got these beautiful rainbow carrots here. And in order to make this happen, we want to get rid of the old tops. So we'll just cut those down as close to the top as possible without actually cutting the top off. So you still want to have that little ring there. And we're also going to take a little bit more of that length off of it, so we're at about 1/2 inch or so tall on the carrot tops. And then if you've never eaten carrot greens, they're really quite lovely. Again, a really nice thing to put to supplement in a salad as a garnish. Wow your friends with how fancy you are. And so I'm using right here just like a reusable top from a ball jar. And I like this because it's nice and shallow. The carrots can sit in there easily. They have enough room. But also the water, they don't become submerged. The water is small enough in volume to be able to warm up. They like to be in the sun, and that really having the warm water really helps them. And because of the shallow depth, though, you have to really keep an eye on making sure that it's refilled. And then if you do, you will end up with these little guys. So you can see there's just a little bit of growth there. And they're starting to go. This is 1 week. And I can just almost start nibbling on those, but only for a moment because there's not very much. But they will start to grow. They look really beautiful once they get going. If you want to speed up their growth, you can put that carrot top into a little bit of soil, and just make sure that soil stays moist, and the greens will actually grow at a much higher rate. But if you're trying to keep, just a totally water hydroponic quarantine garden, then you can still make it happen with the carrot tops. So we will just compost those. Next, we've got some herbs. So these, if you're like me, when you get your cilantro, it always comes in a huge bunch, and you can never eat that much cilantro in one go, right? So it all kind of starts to go a little bit wimpy and wilty. But this is a way that you could save some of it. And so what you do, it's very, very simple, and the same thing applies for also rosemary. You will just take a few strands of the cilantro. I'm going to cut off the base, so I'm cutting off just 1.5 inches or so, 2 inches of the stem, and then putting that in water. These guys are very wilty at this point. And then we're just going to put a few inches in there, and they'll perk up. And then we'll just wait for some new root to grow right out of the bottom of the stem. And that'll happen after a couple weeks or so. I've got some going here that you can tell it's pretty lively. But it has not grown its roots yet out of the bottom. So I'm just gonna let it still hang out on my shelf here. And then once I see a little bit of root, I'll be able to stick that into some soil, and they will grow on the windowsill. So it's actually quite simple with the cilantro. Same thing with your rosemary. So I actually harvested this rosemary just out and about on a walk around the neighborhood with my quarantine mate. Shout out to Christy. This was just came straight off of the plant. Just pulled the rosemary and then took it home, trimmed it a little bit, and then threw it into the water. It smells fabulous, and it also is going to start growing just a little bit of a root there in the water pretty soon. It's not quite ready yet, but once it is, I can throw it into a little pot and have rosemary for all of my dishes. Let's see, finally, we've also got garlic. So we've all had our garlic that you left in the pantry for too long and it starts to sprout and you're like, can I eat this? What's going on with it? Well, there is a way that you can sort of grow your own sprouts, or skates, I believe they're called, the garlic skates. You'll just take a clove and, take a bulb and get all of your, you don't have to get all of the husk off of it. Is that the word? Husk? I don't know. Let me know what the garlic is. The garlic peel is called. So you just get those out. Get a few of them. And the really important thing with the garlic is, again, you don't want it to get submerged, and you want to make sure that it is sitting in your dish properly. You don't want it to be upside down. So it's going to sit in the dish just like it did in its bulb. And you don't need to peel like all of the peel off of it. It'll start to fall off on its own. And so I have this little jar, which almost could work, just starting to like pile these in here with the flat sort of butt of the clove down and then the pointy part up. And this actually might work. They definitely have a tendency to want to topple over. Ooh, this is actually going to work really well. So this little size ball jar works. And once you get them in there, all kind of cozy, you will fill it with water. You know, that might even be one too many in there. Fill it with water, but not over the top of the bulb. You want to just go right up to right before the pointy part. And so you'll leave that in the sun, and very soon, this is after 1 week, your skates will start to grow. They will peel themselves, and you will also get these crazy long roots. And you're actually not, you can plant these and just let them keep growing, the skates, the sprouts. And once they get, as they just keep getting taller, the skate is the part that becomes edible. And you can almost use it like a green onion. It's like a milder flavor of garlic. So that's also just like a really nice kind of treat, a little herb that you can add to your boxes of macaroni and cheese and goodies that you've been consuming. I got kind of creative with the way that I put these into my garden. I have 2 silicone cupcake, little cupcake tin things, and they helped keep all of my garlics up and upright. So that's a good one. And then finally, this is one that a lot of people have probably already done. and it's a sweet potato. So once you have cut all of your sweet potato ends off, or even if you just want to start with a brand new sweet potato, you will want to have, let's see. So some people will actually just take the entire sweet potato, stuff it in a jar with some water, and let it sprout, and that will work. I have found, though, that when you cut it in half, it works a little bit better. So that's what I've done here, and I've got some toothpicks, which you will want to poke into the sweet potato. You want to make sure that you've got enough space for some of the base of the potato to go into the water. So do your little toothpicks up a little bit closer to the top. And then get a jar that's big enough to hold your potato, and we'll put some water in there. And then whoop, get your potato in, and it should sit right on the toothpicks. And particularly with the sweet potatoes, you really want to keep an eye on your water. You don't want it to get cloudy or slimy or anything like that. Just make sure that you're refilling it and keeping it nice and fresh. It's going to take a little bit longer for those guys to grow. This is mine. I'm actually very excited. We've got one little guy. We've got a purple sprout coming up. We've got a couple little extra ones down here. Those are called, once they grow, they're called sweet potato slips. And I have a beautiful artist rendering of what it will look like. There we go. So you can see you've got those beautiful roots that come down, and then the slips come up out of the top. Thank you to our education coordinator, Rachel, who was a fabulous illustrator and was able to make my sweet potato dreams come true with that. But once they get about to that height, the slips, then you just twist it off, gently twist them off. You'll put them then into another little cup or shot glass of water, let them get rooted themselves, and then you can throw that into a pot with soil as well. And then they will grow. And apparently the way that you know that your sweet potatoes are ready is the leaves will start to go yellow. So keep an eye out for that. I have never made it to that stage yet, so I'm excited to see what happens with all of these. And then finally, I had mentioned that if you want to keep your garden in the sun, you can hang it on the PDF that I provided. We've got a quick little video that'll show you exactly how to do a very simple macrame hanger. Basically, the gist of it is that you've got four pieces of the same length of yarn or whatever you've got laying around, rope, what have you. Separate, or then you flip it in half, so loop it in half so that you have 8 total strands. And then you'll just go through and in pairs with, of the 8 strands, just tie at a third of the way down from the top, from your loop. Just do a little knot all the way around. You'll do a second layer of that, alternating between the strands, and then a third one if you're so inclined. This one only has 3, but it's super simple. Check out the video, and that'll give you a really good idea of what to do. So again, if you love projects like this, please do visit MCD at home and see what else we have for you. Please share with us what your gardens look like if you decide to go for it. We're very excited, and we want you to be out there staying creative, staying healthy, and and staying sane. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Sarah Charlotte Jones. That is some amazing plant-based necromancy you just showed us. I cannot wait to turn what was destined for the compost bin into our next salad. But we have some more exciting acts coming up. We had a quick question from Billy. When humans go into space, are they going to be living in orbital stations or on the surfaces of moons and planets? Why not both? I think there's a lot of risks involved with living in a microgravity or low-gravity environment, so being on a heavy object helps, but space stations might be able to spin fast enough to give humans some semblance of gravity. Unfortunately, no one's tested that yet. If you have more space questions, throw them in there. We'll be able to address them in just a few minutes. But right now, we are getting ready for our musical performance from Anne Andre. So stay tuned.
How's everybody feeling out there? You're about to make the 10 bars of theory. Give you a little accordion soul music. Lift up everybody's spirits. I want to send a shout out to everybody going through this rough quarantine life. I want to put a smile on everybody's face, so I want everybody to get up, have yourself a good time. We're going to start with something that goes something like this. It's swinging on fire. Always on my mind. Love makes me fly. Try to stay away. There's something about love. Swing on the mind. Yeah. Swing on the mind. You got to go, Every day, when I'm saying, every night, oh yeah, running around with one mind, in order to find. See, every weekend, she called me her name, just to get her hands on my money. No good woman, you know the midnight. Every day, when I just stay, every night, oh yes, running around, so happy, no mama, we want to get high. See every week, on my name, just to get hands on my money. No woman, we want to get high. Hey, right, y'all. Everybody's having a good time. We're gonna smile on your face. Hopefully, one day, very soon, we can get back to playing for live human beings. Until then, we're gonna get you on the dance floor with something that goes. Tell me why, oh, why, oh, why, tell me why, oh, why, there goes my baby, she's moving on down the line. There goes my baby, she is no longer mine. She took my love, and now she's gonna go. She took my love, and now she's gonna go. La 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 la. La 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 la. She is no longer mine. She took my love, and now I'm gonna love. She took my love, and I'm just gonna Thank you so much, y'all. Hope you're having a good time. Once again, Andre Theory. Y'all can also go to the website, andretheory.com. Once again, I want to send prayers out to everybody that's going through this rough time. Hope you're having a good time. I think we got time to give you one more. So we're going to kick it up a little notch with a little hot pants. Thank you so much, y'all. Hope you had a good time. Good night.
Wow, what a note to go out on. Hands, big
Yeah, that
round
was
of
amazing.
applause.
That was so much fun.
Thank you, Andre Thierry. Now, we have just a few more minutes before we got to end our broadcast, but before we go, Mary, any cool last space stories you want to update folks on?
Yeah, one of the ones I just learned of today that I'm excited to look up after this actually is that NASA has introduced a new app where you can virtually meet female space scientists. So it's called Reach Across the Stars, and it has a bunch of short stories basically where women who work in space and astronomy and stuff talk about their experiences and interesting things about what they do. So I'm definitely going to be looking that up after this.
That is super cool. We had a couple folks in the comments asking about the asteroid or comet that's coming by. There's been a few of them, so we want to make sure that we address it. The Comet Atlas was promising to be a bright object. Lots of people were excited to see it. Unfortunately, it seems to be breaking up, and unlikely we're going to be getting much of a show. But Hubble did take a photo of it as it broke up, another one of Hubble's amazing accomplishments. There was also a near-miss asteroid that swung by today and unfortunately is down to 11th magnitude. And that means it is many, many, many times fainter than even the faint stars we can pick out with our naked eye. So unlikely we're going to get a chance to spot that in any meaningful way. But when I say near miss of an asteroid, a lot of folks get a little nervous, and justifiably. This thing was 500 meters across. But when we say near miss, we're also using astronomer ease. It's 16 times farther than our moon and only 500 meters across. Now, we still have a lot of objects out there in the universe that we're still learning about, still tracking, and those could be potentially devastating. So paying attention to the universe around us and figuring out where objects are going is always a super important thing to do. But for folks who are excited for more astronomy coming up, Mary, what should they be looking forward to for future Nightlives?
For interesting space stuff? Sorry?
For virtual Nightlives coming up in the future.
Yeah. So we will not have a Nightlife and Friends next week, but if you tune back in 2 weeks, you will see us again, and yeah, it'll be a great time.
If you are excited for a deeper dive into some of the appetizer subjects we've given you so far, though, the Academy will be kicking off Academy night classes next week. So if you are interested in that deeper dive into a fewer subjects, but more detail on them, make sure you tune in and check it out. We're having some planetarium stuff happening on our Facebook page as well. If you want to tune in, see more of Mary and myself, and ask some questions, we're always happy to answer them. Thank you all for joining us, and no matter where you find yourself during this quarantine, stay happy, stay sane, stay safe, and take care of each other.
Thank you all so much.
Cheers.